What's going on, guys? Welcome to the late stream. Saturdays are always a little bit tricky, but it's just another day. Had to get the stream out. So thanks everyone who's in here late. If you're not and you're watching tomorrow morning, no worries. None of it is really too time sensitive. Honestly, the Bitcoin stuff we're going to go over is really just kind of a follow-up from yesterday's analysis. I want to break down a little bit as well what we talked about in the alt trade ideas section today, and then also look at that new trade idea, and then also that's kind of going to open up really kind of a new framework and really a new kind of a whole new list based on a filter of new trade ideas that I think could have some nice opportunity. But first, let me give a quick shout out. I'm trying to open up the stream on my iPad so I can see the chat while this goes on. So let me see. Give me 1 second while this opens up. All right, what's going on, guys? What's up? What's up, D. Callahan? What's up, Void? Void's missing the royal wedding recap. What's up, D. Callahan? Who else is in here? What's up, John O? Jorge, Marcus, what's going on, guys? Buenas noches. So yeah, like I said, I want to start off with Bitcoin, kind of this support turning into resistance that we were kind of looking at yesterday. And this is just that previous first support level now turning into a resistance area. So I kind of want to talk about really none of the outlook changes. So that section is going to be pretty quick. Honestly, tonight's stream will be pretty quick. And then one new trade idea, which is that EDU trade idea, which is showing the one tricky thing with some of these Binance coins is kind of this completely unnatural volume. You're right. I don't think it really presents a problem. If anything, I actually kind of like seeing a coin that has that. But I want to unfold this idea a little bit and more about kind of looking for coins with that early April low point in Bitcoin terms. So I want to break down that a little bit. Let's start with Bitcoin though, like we always do before we get to the stream. Can't make my mouse work today. All right, cool. So looking at where Bitcoin is, looking at kind of following up from yesterday's stream, and it was a little bit longer stream that we focused on Bitcoin. This is that second support area that we marked last week, almost a week and a half ago now, that we were looking at 7,800 to 8K, right? We got a little bit of a bounce there, and then as price moved up today, there was some optimism to start the day. Marcus had definitely covered that as well. But now it's testing this previous support zone, right? This is that previous support zone around 8,400. This is now turning into that resistance zone, right? So it's retesting as it broke through the support, it's retesting that support now as resistance, right? So just flipping this down as resistance. So this is the area yesterday, if I was looking for a bullish confirmation and a bearish confirmation, kind of just wanting to pick the two areas on the chart that would kind of determine the next week's trend. The two levels that I'm looking at and still looking at are I want to see a 4-hour Bitcoin close above this 8,400 level. That'd be a bullish confirmation for me that we can move up to something like 9K or 9,300. We still didn't get that, right? You can see price spiked up, the candle went through, but you can see how the candle closed right there, and then we move back lower, right? The bearish case is, and kind of what I'm looking really for kind of the bullish case to remain, the bearish case would be a close below the 7,800. So as long as we're kind of in this range, right, I don't really want to do too much more or new analysis. I'm really not going to be doing any intraday trading, right? My bids were set just as they were set here when this was a previous support. And now, honestly, I'm waiting for a close again back above 8,400. In terms of the Bitcoin news front, I didn't see anything coming out of anything really today that I thought was newsworthy or interesting. Just another day really in Bitcoin and in crypto in terms of Bitcoin news. So nothing really new for Bitcoin. It was a nice spike up, right? But we just still weren't able to close above 8,400 and no closes below 7,800. So as long as you sit in this range, I'm not going to be too excited either way. All right, so the outlook doesn't change. I don't want to kind of break down that since I went through it so deep yesterday. The one thing that I really did want to kind of hit on more before I get into it too much, let's look at ETH. As I always like to update this. We continue to consolidate above this fib resistance, just like we did on all the previous levels when we were sitting above fib resistance or at fib support. To me, that's a good sign still for alts. I still think most alts are priced attractively. Some of these large caps might not be priced as attractively. I don't think ETH is priced as attractively. I think there's kind of a slew of Binance coins and definitely some Bittrex coins which are priced pretty attractively though, and I remain bullish on alts as long as this uptrend continues. Right, I want to keep that exposure open. If we do all of a sudden, if this support breaks and we do start kind of charting lower highs and also lower lows, then that's when I kind of change my opinion. Right, but if we're looking at where we started early April, if we're looking at the last month and a half, I'm still up considerably, and most other alts are up considerably. The only entries that kind of got hurt is anything that you entered maybe a week into May or kind of mid-May or early May. Everything else is still up. The one kind of new concept that I wanted to break down, I talked about this in trading strategy. I talked about this in alt trade ideas, and this is kind of how I'm looking for new trade ideas right now. Is if you guys were with me earlier in the year, even a month ago or 2 months ago, we were looking for a lot of coins that were on, actually let me go back to ETH to illustrate before I dive into the new trade idea. We were looking for coins that were on their December 5th to December 7th lows. And what I mean by that and why I was doing that was December 5th, December 7th was this, right? So this was the beginning of the real alt cycle at the end of 2017, right? When we had this kind of this shortened alt run, call it whatever you want. We had a really nice push for a lot of alts, right? So when I was looking at coins, and this was back in March and April, I was looking for coins that were along their December 5th, December 7th low. ETH wasn't there, right? But a lot of other coins were actually all the way either on their trendline support, right? Or maybe they were all the way down here, right? Maybe they were all the way actually at their December 5th, December 7th low support, right? So a lot of coins, that's kind of the way that we were looking at coins. And we traded Mu a couple times like that. We traded Edgeless like that. We also traded some other Binance coins like that, right? So now the kind of the new metric or the new timing guide or kind of the new, I guess you could say, cycle guide that I'm using or area that I'm looking for a lot of alts, because all alts are going to be at different cycles. All alts kind of, create different patterns. Some have just been moving straight up. Some have been kind of forming ranges. So kind of the new filter that I'm using, the new framework that I'm using to kind of find some of these opportunities or coins that are lagging or coins that are particularly attractive right now is I'm looking for coins that are at their April lows. Right, so coins really started moving at the end of March. I would say kind of the first week of April, anytime from April 1st to really April 9th is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of alts. So as I'm kind of scrolling through Binance and coins that have been really moving, and whether or not this volume is real, I don't think this volume is real at all. Right, what this is probably a project that just turned on a market maker, or this is definitely Binance wash trading or something like that. You see this with kind of a nice group of other coins on Binance. It's probably why they also lead in terms of exchanges with highest volumes. They just have market makers working on all these exchanges. That's not very natural to have that consistent volume and kind of have it all turn on at once. Either way, kind of ignoring the volume and just looking at the chart, I saw some questions on that. That's why I just wanted to touch on that. Just ignoring that and looking at the chart, this was the new kind of trade idea of the day. I really like this one. I think it's technically extremely attractive. Looking at coins that are at their April 1st, so this is kind of that April 10th low, and it was also kind of there at the beginning of April as well. You can also see historically where this price level was respected. Now, this was the end, this was in December of 2017. We also kind of have the low of where a lot of alts were, and this was in February of this year. Then we have kind of the mid-March real low. So we're only up about 20% from the all-time low there, right? And we're also still sitting in that April low. So that April low is kind of the new timing metric for me. It's very similar to the December 5th, December 7th low that I was talking about. So if you hear me talk about that going forward, I'm sure I'm going to find a bunch of trade ideas this week or kind of for the rest of the month that are going to be kind of following the same framework. That's what I'm talking about. In terms of EDU and picking targets, what I'm looking for with EDU is I'm looking for at least kind of a 40% play, looking at where we got to at the beginning of May when things started to turn back down. That'd be about 40% up, and then to its all-time high would be about 110% up. I mentioned this is mostly a technical play. I think fundamentally, I actually do still like the sector, even if it's a very crowded sector in terms of decentralized exchanges, right? They're working on a mobile wallet and kind of a hybrid exchange. They're going to allow you to exchange ETH with other ERC20 tokens. They're also going to start letting you do that with Bitcoin and other coins as well. So I like what they're working on. I just think it's an extremely crowded space, and it kind of reminds me of bread. I don't think it's the strongest project, but I do like the sector enough, and technically this is really clean. This is exactly what I look for. I love to trade ranges. right? So this is kind of a coin that's been lagging behind. I think it's extremely attractive. I like this play a lot, right? So I wanted to share that one as kind of the new trade idea today. Everything else we were looking at, and guys, I said I was going to keep this stream pretty short because it is late. And I mentioned this to a couple people in the announcements or general discussion. Not that any of you need to know this, but I am going to be heading to the East Coast. If you haven't noticed, I've been working on my laptop. That's why you can't see my face down here in the bottom left corner. So I'm moving to the East Coast and kind of in process of moving all my stuff out from the West Coast. So I'm going to be over here for probably 3 months. So I'm probably not going to be doing too many conferences, kind of hunkering down. I have a new spot over here. So tomorrow I have to head back out west, get all my stuff and move it all back, and I'll be back Monday. So kind of a quick stream tonight just so I can go to bed and wake up early for that. Anyways, one other update I did want to show. Someone said they really liked EOS. We weren't able to get, I personally wasn't able to get my second bids filled here on EOS. I kind of talked about this as being, this was a new trade idea from about 2 days ago. This was kind of that smart, quote unquote, smart play that I heard a lot of people and people that I respected talking about moving into EOS, going into consensus. The thought here is I don't expect it to be anything that pumps. It kind of is scary moving into anything that's this expensive, right? It's kind of the opposite of the play from Ito in the sense that we're moving in when it's really near all-time highs or definitely at pretty much its all-time high if we're looking at something like a weekly basis. However, I kind of like this as a hedge really against ETH, right? So if you're already holding some ETH, kind of the play or the discussion was, what are the chances that ETH goes to 1,500 and what are the chances that this hits $30 first? And this is at 15 or $14. So kind of the thought was this has a better chance of doubling before ETH does. So it's a bit of a hedge in the sense that relatively speaking, it might be cheaper than ETH. And it seems to be, this is kind of where a lot of the hype and people think this trade or this kind of momentum is going to continue. Right, so I like that trade idea enough. I like that narrative enough, even if it is a little bit murky right now. Technically, it gave an okay setup. Right now, those bids are finally, the first bids are in profit. Second bids didn't get hit. So I did want to update that real quick. I know someone was asking about EOS or kind of saw it moving nicely. Right, so interesting play here. It did not get down here. It looks like someone kind of stepped in right before that support. Marcus is a good question in terms of Icon and Enigma. Before I even look at it, I kind of was checking it all day. They're both really kind of the same for me, right? I want to hold on to both, even if they both do kind of look shaky as they're coming down and kind of testing this daily support. It's nothing that I'm really worried about, right? We've gotten down here before. This is kind of where we closed in the daily. This was 42.4. We were able to bounce back up. For me right now, this is kind of a shakeout. It's really just testing. I'm going to call this a support zone. Right, so if it is below support, if we do start getting a close, drastically below, right, then it would be a small loss, something like 1 or 2%. I just don't anticipate that actually happens. Right, so I still like Icon, I still like Enigma, even if they are moving a little bit slower. I still like those. Those are kind of still my 2 picks through May. Even if this is not looking as pretty right now, less than 1% down from entry, I'm not going to make any moves on it, Marcus, but I am definitely eyeing it. Interesting stuff there. I saw a couple guys talking about Ren. Republic Network continues to shine. One quick word of caution: if you haven't moved in, you want to move in today. I know it has been doing really well, and one thing that's a little bit scary is it was getting a lot of Twitter mentions today. A lot of Twitter kind of just a lot more awareness right now about Republic Network. I think Bravado shared some stuff about it, and they have like 40,000 people on Telegram, right? So that could definitely cause the price to move. It's definitely now at about a 2x from when we first talked about it. But I'm kind of still playing that and Tomo and DBIX and Aura as longer term plays until they're on bigger exchanges, right? So that's nothing really exciting there for me yet on Ren, but I still kind of like that. I updated all those plays and alt trade ideas. If you haven't seen it, kind of the ones that I want to continue to focus on. So it's nice to actually see EOS turning around. I didn't think it would work out that quick. Nothing else, guys. If you want to kind of see a bunch of the updates from yesterday, Mu and Edgeless are both really exciting. They're both kind of at this decision point, right at kind of this downtrend line. So I still like all 3 of those Bittrex plays, and that's Mu, Edgeless, and XCP. That remains. I'm honestly still pretty bullish on alts, and I'm seeing some people kind of show flack about that on Twitter or elsewhere. But quite honestly, I still like alts at a lot of these levels, at least the alts that we're looking at. Definitely not all of them, not ZRX when it's pumping at all-time high, not a few of these other ones. I want to be consolidated. I only want to be in kind of a small number of alts. But at the same time, I do still like how alts are priced. Even if Bitcoin looks a little bit shaky, I still think they're priced attractively enough that they can do well. Right, so wanted to quickly just cover that new framework for the alt trade ideas for the rest of the month and that edu play. I really like the edu play. I'm gonna find another one of those coins probably tomorrow, which is very similar to edu. So whenever I share kind of a high conviction play, if you're not sold on it or if you don't like the play or the setup, use it as kind of an educational play or a framework for what you can find, other trade ideas. If you don't like it, don't play it, because I'm definitely gonna have more ideas going forward. Void said, are you still looking to build an Aura? Yeah, Void, I am. I haven't bought Aura. I bought it kind of when IDEX came back online, just a really small chunk. But I haven't really bought into it yet. I just haven't been able to be actively trading yet. Right. It's been nice to get back in the groove for about a day and a half, but I'm still definitely not kind of in the full swing of things. So I haven't built what I would even call kind of a position into Aura. Right. I have my toes in. I put a few ETH in. Right. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, guys. If you guys have any quick questions, I can definitely tackle them. In terms of Bitcoin, nothing really changed. I really just had kind of that one framework I want to talk about and the new trade idea. Everything else is pretty consistent. I'm also going to be streaming today or tomorrow. I know I usually don't stream on Sundays, but I'm going to be back in my office tomorrow since I'm back in California. I'm going to get a stream in before I pack up the computer and ship it back out east, and then I'm going to be home on Monday after traveling, and should hopefully have the office all set up definitely by end of week. So I'll probably be on my laptop again for the rest of the week, but at least I'll be stationary in one spot just working on this. So it's going to be a really good week. It's a nice end to the week to kind of get back into the swing of things. And I really think there's some opportunity in this week. I kind of, when I joined, it's nice almost to see the camaraderie kind of come back to the group, come back to a few people. I know some people said it brought some life back into things, or at least they stopped looking so dim. Crypto Twitter can be pretty dim sometimes, or pretty dark, I should say, pessimistic in their outlook. And I'm not like always an optimist, right? But I do think kind of people. I do think people kind of get caught up in the sense that yes, things have definitely been trending down for the last week or two, right? But since April, we're still up considerably. Jorge, good question. I knew you don't go binary all in all. Is there a scenario like maybe retesting Bitcoin 6K that you recommend that, like a risk-off scenario? In terms of alts, Jorge, yeah, it's a really good question. I probably still wouldn't be all in, all out, right? And even if Bitcoin did go 6K, so if we're looking at, and I imagine you're talking about 6.6, it's a 6.6 being this double bottom level. So if Bitcoin breaks the 7,800 and we came down to test something, honestly, the next level that I'd really be looking for would kind of be this little gap right here. We've had a breakdown. We've had kind of a wick down, a pretty violent wick. So I still think 7,300 would hold. That'd be pretty brutal on a lot of longs. I think that would trap a lot of longs that are stuck up here from 9,300. But yes, if we did make it down here to 6,600, right, in a total risk-off scenario, I think alts would get hurt pretty bad. I do think you might have to trim some more alts, but honestly, the way that I'm looking at it and the way that I'm kind of playing a lot more of these, kind of less of short term. There's definitely a few shorter term trades I have on there. Edu would be a great example. And Enigma and Icon, those are definitely kind of shorter term trades that I'm in. The other ones, kind of things like Ren and Tomo and Aura and DBIX, coins like that, I would probably keep, right? Because just like right now, when alts are faltering as Bitcoin gets shaky and as Bitcoin kind of comes down here and retests deeper, into these support levels, and you can kind of see your alts dip with it. It's been doing it ever since the beginning of May, right? If this is kind of the beginning of May, you're seeing your alts kind of falter down here with Bitcoin. As Bitcoin gains its footing, you see those alts pop back almost immediately, and they've charted kind of the next high or low. So even if alts kind of faltered, right, or if Bitcoin falters and alts come down with it, to me, that would kind of be like a selling the dip scenario if I was to go completely risk off and completely get out of alts. Right, I think there's a few plays, Enigma and Icon, if I have kind of predetermined stops or predetermined levels that I want to get out, that I might close out that exposure. But in terms of other coins like Tomo and those, I would honestly be looking to add to those, right? Or things that I have conviction in longer than a month or two, I'd probably want to add to those positions, to be quite honest. To me, that would feel like a selling the dip scenario. Okay. But I don't think we get down there, to be quite honest. But it is good to be prepared for it. You know what I mean? If we do close below this, I'm wrong, and we'll have to kind of see what happens after that. D. Callahan, was Juan discussed at consensus still good fundamentally? Quite honestly, you might not like this, but a lot of the people that I invested, especially the ones that I invested with in Juan, and I saw the Juan team there. I didn't have a chance to meet with Dustin. The Juan chain, the Juan chain team was there, and it seems like they are working on a few different things. He kind of says he's working on a stealth project in terms of scaling WAN chain. You know, I people were a little bit scared in terms of how WAN was going to do fundamentally and whether there was all hype. I'm still holding a large majority of my WAN. I think a lot of the upside is kind of gone for WAN as it's sitting around 700 million. To me, it's kind of like a loom play, right? We've already had now, what has WAN been? WAN's like it's almost 30, 40x. Maybe not that, 20x. What is that? So 18x still, and this is after a pretty drastic drop, almost a 10x in Bitcoin. It's definitely kind of losing some of its upside, I would say. I still have conviction to win. I still think it's kind of a blue chip. It's up there in the top 20 or 25. I haven't wanted to play a trade on it. It's like Ontology. It's like a few of those other ones. Anything that Zilliqua, anything that kind of takes off immediately when it hits market, doesn't really give me a chance to make a play on it or do too much TA. Right? It's just like it's there's not much I can do on a market like this. Right? Just almost straight up. Once we get a little bit more kind of out of the price discovery, since it's only been on the market for a month, fundamentally I have as much insight as anyone else. I spoke with the team. I still like it. That's why I invested in it. But now it's just still price discovery. I like to dissect these more in terms of how it's priced technically. And it's just not kind of giving me the ability or the chance to do that. So I'm still holding a good amount of my WAN, but a lot of the people that I talked to kind of wanted to reduce exposure. They were pretty worried about WAN chain. I think they were more worried about it just kind of dropping off a cliff than they were about its fundamental strength changing, if that makes sense. I think it's more fear than anything kind of changing on the fundamental side. Yeah, Callahan. I think everyone's the same way, right? Taking profit on price discovery, unless you kind of have those predetermined levels, right? So I took some profit at 10x, right? And there's different kind of levels that I take. It's different for the ICO game than for trades. But if you kind of have a rule set, you just take some amount of profits at 10x or some amount of profits at this, right? You can try to spot kind of a blow off top all you want. But as in price discovery, everything kind of looks like a blow off top until you have kind of that massive selling at the top, right? This was a blow off top. And then after that, we still moved up another 50%. All right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping this up. Jorge, that is a good idea to have that Excel file. But quite honestly, that's kind of why I'm in here all day. I'm trying to update the alt trade ideas and alt trade updates. I can reach out to Alex to see if he wants to do something like that. But I've tried to do something like that in the past, and it's a lot. It's just really a lot to keep up with, especially since I kind of no, you completely did. That makes sense. Especially since I do the streams every single day. I hope kind of the streams kind of make up for that. Right? If I was to do that, then I wouldn't be able to spend as much time on the stream. But I'll reach out to Alex and see if we can find a nice solution for that. I do kind of want to make, we can always make improvements. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. We're at about 25 minutes. Anyways, Bitcoin, really nothing changes. I hope you understand that kind of framework or the filter that I'm looking for some new trade ideas. For Edu, I like Edu. It's already starting to move up a little bit. Really nothing else changes in terms of other alts. Things are still a little bit shaky, but I do think if we can snag alts at April lows, that you're kind of giving yourself the best chance to perform well. If anything changes on the Bitcoin front and we do kind of go towards a risk off scenario, then I may need to consolidate a little bit more. We're just not there yet, so I don't want to get ahead of the chart. All right, I'm signing off, guys. Hope everyone has a good night. I'll be online tomorrow, traveling a little bit in the morning, but I'll be on after that, and we'll be doing a stream even though it's Sunday, just because I want to hit it really hard this week, and especially with kind of Bitcoin at this critical point. Good night, Jorge. Good night, everyone else. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this tomorrow morning, I'll see you guys then. Signing off.